Again, I first realized something in my marriage had shifted the night. I came home early from work and found Marissa sitting alone in our dim living room, staring at her wedding ring like it was a puzzle she couldn't solve. The TV flickered, untouched. Her dinner plate sat cold beside her, and she didn't even hear me walk in. "Rough day," I whispered, trying to sound casual, brushing my hand across her shoulder. She flinched, not because I startled her, but because she wasn't expecting me to be there. Her eyes darted to her phone face down on the couch cushion before she forced a smile. "Just exhausted, Lucas. Work's been a lot." But that wasn't it. I'd known this woman for nearly a decade. Her moods, her tells, her rhythms. Something about the way she pulled her hand away from mine felt rehearsed, practiced, like she'd been preparing to feel distant long before I noticed. "Want to talk?" I asked softly. She shook her head quickly. "No, I just need space. Quiet. Space." That word had been creeping into her vocabulary for weeks. I sat beside her anyway, not touching her, just watching her stare at the wall. Her breathing was tight, shallow. She looked like someone weighed down by a secret she wasn't ready to admit. And for the first time in our marriage, I felt like a guest inside my own home. The next morning, our routines, once perfectly aligned, were suddenly out of sync. She usually woke me with a kiss or at least a grumpy mumble, but now she was already dressed, makeup perfect, hair curled like she had somewhere important to be. She never dressed like that for work. New project launch. I teased lightly, her fingers still mid-hair flip. No, just wanted to feel good today. But there was something else, something sharper, in her eyes. A kind of nervous excitement. A spark I hadn't seen in months, but it wasn't lit by me. I grabbed my mug, pretending not to watch as she checked her phone twice in the span of 10 seconds. Each time she read a message, her lips curved into a smile she tried to hide behind her hair. That smile didn't belong to me anymore. "Who's keeping you so entertained this early?" I tried joking. Her expression snapped shut instantly. "It's just a group chat, Lucas." She grabbed her bag and rushed out, leaving behind a faint perfume trail and an even stronger sense that something was slipping through my fingers. That night, things got stranger. I woke around 1 a.m. to the glow of her phone lighting up the bedroom, vibrating against the nightstand. Marissa wasn't beside me. She was standing by the window, whispering into the dark. "No, I told you. I can't just disappear like that. They'd notice. Just give me a little more time." "No, not tonight." Every word stung sharper than the last. My heart hammered as I lay still, pretending to sleep. When she slipped back into bed, she curled away from me, hugging her pillow like a barrier. I didn't touch her. Couldn't. Because I already knew. No married woman whispered like that to a coworker or a friend. Something was unraveling. Or maybe it had already unraveled, and I was the last one to notice. The final crack arrived a week later. Our home had become quiet. Too quiet. She barely joined me for dinner anymore. She came back late, left early, and always smelled like a cologne that wasn't mine. One evening, she walked in with her friends Kylie and Amanda, laughing louder than usual, the kind of laughter people use to cover discomfort. I wasn't expecting them, but I'd cooked dinner, steak, her favorite. She didn't even look at the table. "Oh, you cooked," she said awkwardly, glancing at the girls. "It's Tuesday," I said, forcing a smile. "We always eat together on Tuesdays." Kylie looked at Marissa with raised brows, then turned to me. "Lucas, don't take it personally. We dragged her out tonight. She needs a breather." Amanda chimed in. "Seriously, she's been under so much stress. She needs some time away from everything." Their gaze lingered on me a little too long. I felt my throat tighten, speech catching somewhere between confusion and humiliation. "A breather?" I asked quietly. Since when did she need a break from me? Marissa stepped forward, visibly uncomfortable. "Lucas, don't do this right now. Not in front of them." "Do what?" My voice cracked in spite of myself. "Ask why my wife barely looks at me anymore." The room went silent. Her cheeks flushed, not with guilt, but annoyance. "You're overreacting. I need clarity." Clarity. Another dagger of a word. Then Kylie, always the bold one, said what Marissa didn't dare. "She deserves some time to unwind. Lucas, a change of scenery. You've been, a little suffocating lately." My pulse throbbed in my ears. "Suffocating," I echoed, trying to breathe through the trembling in my chest. Marissa wouldn't meet my eyes. And something inside me, something patient, loyal, forgiving, finally snapped. If she truly needed distance, I would give her more than she ever asked for. But before I let emotions take over, I studied her face one last time, the restless excitement, the guilty glow beneath the surface, and it clicked. This wasn't about stress, or clarity, or time away. Someone else was waiting for her. Someone who made her smile again. Someone she wasn't supposed to be talking to. I didn't know who yet, but I would. And when I did, the world she built on lies would collapse faster than she ever imagined. The morning after that awkward encounter with Marissa's friends, I woke with a heaviness I couldn't shrug off. I lay in bed listening to the quiet creaks of our house. The same house we once filled with laughter, late-night cooking attempts, and arguments that always ended in kisses. But now the silence felt like a verdict. Marissa's side of the bed was already cold. I found her in the kitchen wearing a sweatshirt I had never seen before, dark gray, oversized, unmistakably men's clothing. It wasn't mine. She looked startled when she saw me, but recovered too quickly. "You're up early," she said, pouring coffee like we were strangers. I kept my voice steady. "So are you." She didn't answer. Her phone lit up beside her, a message preview flashing briefly. "Made it home?" Last night was, followed by a heart emoji. Her hand flew over the screen, turning it face down instantly. But not fast enough. "Who's that from?" I asked quietly. "It's nothing," she snapped. "Just Amanda being dramatic." Amanda didn't text with hearts. I knew it. She knew I knew it. But she walked past me anyway, pretending the lie didn't shake the air between us. She brushed by, and the scent hit me. Men's cologne again, sharp and woodsy. The same one I'd smelled the night she whispered at the window. I watched her grab keys, sunglasses, and that unfamiliar confidence she'd grown from nowhere. "I'll be out most of the day," she said. "Try not to wait up. Will you be with Kylie and Amanda?" The pause was too long. Probably. When the door shut behind her, the ache in my chest finally transformed into clarity. I needed answers. Not guesses. Not suspicions. The truth. I started with what I knew. Marissa never went anywhere without her smartwatch. It synced automatically to our shared home hub. Step count, heart rate, sleep cycles. All accessible. It wasn't spying. It was a connected device we both used for workouts. But her history told a new story. Her late nights at work. Her location showed she hadn't been at her office once this week. Her girls' nights. 2 instances placed her at a condo complex on Monroe Street. And then one entry broke whatever hope I had left. Darren Hale, residence. My stomach lurched. I'd hoped, prayed it wasn't him. But life has a cruel way of threading old wounds back into present scars. Darren was her ex from years ago. The one she swore she'd healed from. The one she begged me to trust that she had moved past. The one she claimed had no access to her world anymore. But people don't whisper at windows at 1 a.m. to someone they've moved past. I didn't storm out. I didn't confront her. Instead, a strange calm settled over me. Cold, precise. Betrayal doesn't just break you. It sharpens you. I opened our shared laptop and checked our financial statements, mostly to distract myself. But that's when I stumbled onto something unexpected. A hotel reservation. 2 nights. Booked on her email. 1 king bed. 2 guests. My breath caught, and for a moment I just sat there, fingers trembling. Every suspicion, every lie, every unexplained mood swing, it all slid into place like a cruel puzzle. She wasn't planning a break. She wasn't looking for clarity. She was planning an escape. With him. But what she didn't know was that while she'd been preparing her space, I'd been quietly preparing something much more devastating. That evening, Marissa returned home humming. A soft, glowing tune. She looked lighter, happier, almost radiant. That alone nearly broke me. My wife smiled like that for someone else. "How was your day?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Refreshing," she said, pouring wine without offering me a glass. I needed it. She sat beside me on the couch, not touching, just close enough to pretend things were normal. "Lucas," she sighed, "listen, I've been feeling trapped lately. Like I'm losing myself. In our marriage," I said. She hesitated. "In everything." My throat tightened. I studied her face, the soft nervousness, the forced confidence, and I asked the question I already knew the answer to. "Are you seeing someone else?" Her eyes flickered. No, she whispered too quickly. Why would you even? Her phone buzzed. The name on the screen lit the room. Darren. Silence slammed between us. She scrambled to cover it, but it was too late. She froze, panic cracking her expression open like shattered glass. Lucas, I can explain. You don't have to. No, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, I said quietly. Tears filled her eyes, not from guilt, but from the fear of losing control over the lie she'd built. She stood abruptly, hands shaking. I need to leave for a few days. Clear my mind. Figure out what I really want. Where? I asked, though I already knew. With Kylie, she lied again. I nodded slowly. If space is what you want, take all the time you need. Relief washed over her face. She thought she had won something. Claimed freedom. Claimed power. She had no idea the foundation beneath her feet had already cracked. By the time she packed her suitcase that night, I'd already made phone calls, updated documents, changed passwords, consulted attorneys, and prepared the one revenge she would never see coming. When she returned from her little clarity trip, she would come home to a life where her name no longer existed. Every account, every asset, every title, every piece of our shared world would belong to me alone. The morning Marissa left, she acted like she was doing something noble, like stepping away from the marriage was some brave journey of self-discovery. She kissed me on the cheek, a gesture so hollow it barely brushed my skin, and said, "Don't worry, I'll come back clearer." She rolled her suitcase out the door, humming softly, her phone buzzing with a message she pretended not to see. From Darren. As soon as she drove off, the silence in the house collapsed around me. But this time, I didn't feel shattered. I felt focused, sharp, driven by a calm I didn't know I was capable of. Because while she was chasing nostalgia with an ex she never truly let go of, I had finally reached a clarity of my own. She wanted distance? I'd give her a new world to return to, one where every benefit she enjoyed through me had evaporated. My first call was to our attorney, Graham Porter, a steady, level-headed man who'd handled our property paperwork years earlier. He knew me as a fair client, never reactive or emotional. So, when he picked up and heard the steel in my voice, he immediately went serious. "Lucas, what's going on? I need to remove Marissa's name from every joint asset we share," I said. Today, there was a long silence. "Are you sure you want to move that fast?" "She's on a trip," I replied, keeping my voice even. One she didn't exactly take with honesty. Another pause, then a sigh. "Send me documentation. I can expedite most of it." Most of it. That was enough. I opened my laptop and pulled every file. Mortgage agreements, insurance policies, business license attachments. Every place where her signature breathed beside mine. And I sent them all. By noon, I received a message back. Process initiated. Part of me expected to feel guilt, some ache or panic about what this decision meant. But instead I felt something colder, something cleaner. Justice. If she'd wanted to talk, to fight, to confess, maybe this would have gone differently. But she didn't want honesty. She wanted freedom without consequences. She wanted me as a safety net, not a partner. So I spent the day unraveling that safety net strand by strand. That night, I received the first real confirmation of her betrayal. A friend of mine, Justin, who lived near the airport, texted me a photo with no explanation. A blurry shot, but the figures were clear. Marissa, in Darren's arms, laughing against his chest as they walked out of a terminal together. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't hitch. It was like watching a scene from a movie I already knew the ending to. I simply replied, "Thanks." Then I saved the image into a folder I had labeled Truth. Not for blackmail, not for revenge posting, but because there might come a day when she'd look me in the eye and cry, "It wasn't what you think." I wanted to hold the truth gently in my hand and say, "Actually, it was exactly what I thought." For the next 2 days, I lived like a ghost inside the house. Not sad, not furious, just numb and efficient. I updated every password, transferred accounts, redirected mail, revised beneficiaries, contacted banks, locked down the business assets. Every step was legal, clean, professional. While she was out building new memories with another man, I was erasing her fingerprints from the world she took for granted. My routine became strangely peaceful. Morning coffee in silence, emails with attorneys, Gym visits that actually helped me breathe again. Cooking meals I ate alone, but without bitterness. For the first time in months, I didn't feel the weight of her moods, her excuses, her drifting distance. It occurred to me then. I'd been grieving this marriage long before she stepped onto that plane. On the third night, another message from Justin came through. They checked into the Meridian Hotel. One room. No doubt now. That hotel wasn't for friends. Not even for rekindled ex-lovers. It was a place where people went to pretend the world couldn't see them. But it didn't matter. Her choices were her own. And now mine were too. The shift inside me became undeniable on the fourth day. I went to the storage closet to grab a pen and noticed a dusty folder labeled Carter and Heart Wellness Studio. The business Marissa and I once dreamed of opening together. We had spent months sketching ideas, planning locations, imagining a future full of growth and partnership. But she'd stopped contributing, stopped believing, stopped trying. The papers felt heavier than they should have. Maybe because they reminded me of who we used to be, two people with synchronized dreams, not secret passwords and whispered late-night calls. I placed the folder in a box labeled Archive. Not trash, but not the future either. Because tomorrow, she'd return, and I needed everything ready. Everything perfect. Everything in place. Her vacation romance would end, and she would walk through the door thinking she still lived in the same life she abandoned. But she wouldn't. Not anymore. Instead, she would walk into a carefully constructed truth. The car? In my name. The house? In my name. The accounts? Mine. The business filings? Updated. Joint commitments? Canceled. Her access? Restricted. Nothing illegal. Nothing cruel. Just consequences. She had walked away from our marriage long before she physically left. I was simply finishing what she had started. And the moment she saw what she had lost, that would be the real beginning of my revenge. Marissa returned on a quiet Thursday evening, dragging her suitcase behind her with a tired but almost glowing smile. The type of smile people wear when they've spent days pretending reality doesn't exist. She walked into the kitchen like she expected me to greet her with open arms. "Lucas," she said softly, brushing her hair back. "I'm home." Home. The word felt strangely small now. I studied her carefully, the sunburn on her shoulders, the hotel wristband she forgot to remove, the faint smell of cologne lingering on her clothes. Darren's cologne. Trip go well? I asked, voice steady. She froze. The question landed harder than she expected. Oh yeah, the girls and I had fun. The lie was so weak it almost insulted me. I gestured toward the living room. Sit. We should talk. She hesitated before sitting down, setting her phone face down quickly, like she was afraid it would betray her again. I know things have been tense, she began, rehearsed and breathy. I needed space to figure out what I want, but I think this trip helped me clear my mind. I'm ready to work on us. I nodded slowly. Good. I'm glad you found clarity. Because I did too. She offered a hopeful, shaky smile. Really? I stood, opened the drawer beside me, and placed a folder on the table. This is the updated paperwork. Everything finalized. Her smile collapsed. Finalize what? Ownership transfers. Bank access changes. Insurance updates. Business restructuring. I spoke calmly, almost too calmly. Your name is no longer attached to anything we once shared. She blinked rapidly, her breath catching. Oh, Lucas, what are you talking about? I slid the documents toward her. You wanted space. I respected that. And while you were away discovering yourself with Darren. Her head snapped up. Lucas, no, listen, that's not. I raised a hand. Please don't insult us both with lies. Her face drained of color. I can explain. You don't need to. I said gently. You chose him. You chose secrecy. You chose distance. And I chose to protect myself. Tears welled in her eyes. So you just erased me? No. I corrected softly. You erased yourself. I simply completed the process. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the documents. Her name scratched out. My name standing alone. Every shared corner of our life now dissolved. She whispered, voice cracking. But where do I stand? In the truth, I replied. Finally. She looked around the house like she didn't recognize it anymore. And maybe she didn't. Because everything she once took for granted had shifted beneath her feet. Lucas, please, she cried. You can't just end everything because of one mistake. One mistake. My voice stayed calm because the storm inside me had already passed. Marissa, this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. Repeated. Planned. Hidden. Her tears fell harder. But I came back. I wanted to fix things. You came back, I said, because you thought safety would still be here waiting. But you walked out long before the suitcase ever left the house. She covered her mouth, sobbing quietly. I stepped back. There's no anger left in me. No resentment. Just closure. What happens now? She whispered. You'll stay with your sister for now. I already emailed her. She's expecting you. Her eyes widened. Humiliation, shock, heartbreak all mixing into one expression. She wasn't used to consequences. She wasn't used to losing anything. And that was the real revenge. Not destruction, not cruelty, but showing her a life without the safety net she believed would never break. She stood slowly, wiping tears, struggling to breathe. I never thought you'd do something like this. I exhaled long and steady. Neither did I. As she walked toward the door, suitcase trailing behind her like a quiet admission of guilt, she paused. Lucas, were you ever going to forgive me? I looked at her with more honesty than she ever gave me. I was. Until you made sure forgiveness was no longer the right choice. She nodded once, small, defeated, and stepped out. The door clicked shut, and the house finally felt like mine again.